Hello, Glowbusters. Yes, of course they're serious. You do? You have? No kidding. Uh-huh. Oh, they'll cure your globitis this week. Thank you. We got one!
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Glowbusters.
What are you supposed to be, some kind of a cosmonaut?
No, we're exterminators.
And now, here's your host.
All right, and welcome everybody to Glowbusters, filling your eyes with light. I'm your host, Bob Xanadude60, and we are back for, I guess, our first of kicking off a series of shows on Wednesdays, which is kind of new for us, but we decided to go ahead and do that because we went to Rockfin for the Sunday shows, and we certainly didn't want to forget about all the viewers that have been loyal to us, the past 5 to 6 years that we've been online. And so we decided to go ahead and do a Wednesday night show, so at least that way, even though there are some things obviously we cannot talk about because, YouTube just makes them verboten, well, we can still get you the highlights of Flat Earth, and that really is ultimately what the base of this channel is about. So there you have it. So, all right, guys. So we have a little bit different crew with us tonight, and that's going to be something that we're going to be kind of switching around. We have different guests and stuff like that, but I think it's a really good thing, and I'm glad to be able to do this. I think it diversifies the show, but we still have a few of the original Glowbusters crew here. And first up, we will start with Wits It Gets It. How you doing, Austin?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
Not too bad. You guys, where are you at? You still in Florida, or you're heading up north now?
No, actually, we met up with a person to eat lunch in Atlanta, and now we're headed to the Guidestones right now to go ahead and try and get some footage tonight.
Oh, wow, that's crazy. Hey, I thought I saw somewhere that the Guidestones had been vandalized. I don't know. I would imagine that actually happens a lot, but I saw something recently that, somebody had, spray painted and said, stuff like, we're on to you, New World Order, something like that. But it'll be curious to see, if they've either got it cleaned up or if it even happened, or if that maybe was an old video, but it looked like it was fairly new.
Yeah, I saw that too. Apparently, it recently got vandalized. You never know on the internet, but yeah, we'll find out soon.
Yep, I hear you. All right. Cool. Next up, we have with us the doctor who is in, Rodrigo Ferrari Nunez. How are you doing today, Rodrigo?
How's it going, Bob? Thank you for having me. Just jumping into, very curious about the show tonight. Obviously interested in light. We saw the phenomena with the sprites and the starlight going through it, which was pretty interesting last time. So yeah, I'm not sure. Here it's pretty late. It is midnight, so I'm not sure I can stay for the whole show. I'm not sure how long you're planning to make it, but
I'm not planning on making it a huge long show or anything like that. Probably, hour and a half type of would be about right. And okay, Austin, I added you back in. Austin was having a little technical difficulties there, so I think we hopefully got him straightened out. So beautiful. So yeah, well, what we're going to be covering today is something came up this week, but you know what? I should probably finish introducing the panel. That was good, Bob. Okay. Also with us tonight, geez, holy cow. We have Zachary Zabala, otherwise known as Good Times for All. He is my roommate. He is my dear friend. He is a person that we collaborate on his videos that he does so well and puts out to you guys. He's just an all-around great guy. Too nice for rice. Zach Zabala. How you doing, Zach?
Hey, Bob. Thanks, man. That was an awesome intro there. Yeah, no, another beautiful day here in South Carolina, so can't complain, man. Sun came around. It was a good one.
Awesome. Yeah, it really is. It is flipping gorgeous outside. This is one of the most beautiful places I think I've ever seen in the country in the springtime. It's just so lush and flowers everywhere. It's just magnificent down here in the South. I see why people are attracted to it. So, all right. And last but certainly not least, we have with us let's see. He's been on Iron Realm Media, and he has been on Globebusters several times before. And he's made some of my favorite gyroscope videos out there when we were back in the gyroscope phase. But his name is John Savage. How are you doing today, John?
Hey, Bob. I'm doing brilliantly. Thanks for the invite. Nice to catch up with Zach, of course. I know him, but I haven't been on with Austin or Rodrigo. So good to meet you guys. And yeah, looking forward to a good show. Awesome.
Okay. All right. Now I can kind of go a little bit further forward in what we're going to address today. And like I said, I'm going to try and keep it somewhat shorter, hour and a half type area. But so what happened this week is, I listen around obviously to a lot of the other shows that are going on, the debate shows and things that are going on in the community. And I was listening to the Brandon show, which, used to be formerly Ranty's show. And Ranty kind of handed it over to Brandon. And then, Ranty supposedly turned back to Ball Earth. But honestly, guys, I'm not sure I believe that. And I don't think he believes it either. But my own personal opinion on that is I think he's trolling those guys. I really do. And if he's not, he's going to come to his senses pretty soon, because I don't believe for 1 second that he thinks it's a ball. Because if you guys have seen that, the evidence and, the footage basically that they're claiming and they're going crazy over, it's kind of like one of those skunk bay things, when you get this, as the day goes on, the refraction changes massively. And then there comes a point when it's so severe that actually starts to look like a globe, partial globe evidence, right? Well, of course, as always, the globers, dismiss that, and they want to claim that, oh, no, this is just absolutely proving a flat Earth or a ball Earth, excuse me. And they also never take perspective into account or anything like that. It's ridiculous, honestly. But it is something that, I can see where Ranty made this kind of a little bit of a case for it. But a little bit is being generous, in my opinion. So we'll actually have to tear that apart. Have any of you guys seen that?
I've
No.
not. I didn't know Ranty had gone back on the ball. That doesn't sound right at all. Right?
I just think it's hilarious anytime that they try to pretend they've actually isolated the physical obstruction of the Earth curvature, but then the next day it looks different. It's like, oh, we never see the geometric horizon of the Earth curvature. So which one is it? Is the Earth breathing in and out throughout the day? It's that dumb.
It doesn't happen in balloons, in high altitude balloons, right?
No.
Oh, yeah, of course not.
Flat with slightly upturned edges.
Yeah. So
It's
anyway.
nice to see somebody taking the initiative, though, and trolling the trolls,
Yeah.
Let somebody go and waste their time and keep them away from us.
Yeah.
Hey, that's great.
That's
Thank you,
absolutely
Ranty.
true. Yeah. So yeah, and in fact, I'm glad you said that, Zach, because and Zach actually made a cutout of last week's show that was on Rockfin. I think we'll probably put it on the main channel. But one of the segments that we talked about last week, and wow, I'm really getting off base here, but that's okay, whatever. Was we were talking about the lengths that these trolls and these well-known Ball Earth opponents are going to troll us by writing fake letters. We have Wolfie 6020 telling his brother to write fake letters to Taboo Conspiracy. We have Cyman Dan straight up admitting it, that he's trolling, writing letters to Ranty, and he also wrote me under that same account,
Mhm.
you know, saying, oh yeah, I've got this really great proof and I want to go through it with you and I'll even pay for it and all this stuff. And then even Bob the science guy, right, gets in on it. And so they think that this is a good thing, right? That they are teaching us a lesson by writing these emails and pretending to be somebody that they aren't, outright lying. It's just unbelievable, right? So
Screams of desperation, doesn't it? It really does.
Yeah, bro, they're
Oh,
just desperate for attention, man. I just gotta call it like I see it. They're all gamma males, man. And like I just think it's hilarious to me, honestly, because if I thought someone was like incredibly wrong about something, the last thing I'd do would be obsessed with them for years and make constant videos about them and write letters to them. Like, what a loser.
it's their job, I guess.
it is their job. I mean, I'm convinced that. In fact, you know, there was one point where Wolfie made a few videos when he actually, you know, started showing his face and pictures of his wife, and you know, he was, you know, bragging about, you know, how what he does pays so well. And I'm not talking about being the pilot, but you know, being this flat Earth opponent. Shill basically, and he was bragging about that, and it's like it's at the point now they don't even hide it. I mean, that's how cocky they are about it. But I mean, my God, it is so bad. If, and I've said it a million times, if flat Earth is that stupid, why? Right? Why? That's
Yeah, there's
Well,
so many stupid topics out there that, you know, I hear it one time and it's like, okay, that's just the most retarded thing I've ever heard. I'm not listening to that anymore. And then it's gone. I never go and look at it again. That's
I
how I treat
remember-
stuff that I think is that stupid.
Yeah, I mean, Simon Gamma made a hit piece on me. Then I intellectually eviscerated him. Then he jumped in my comments and in my chats. I said, just debate me then. And he's like, oh, no, I'm just not good at debates. Like, okay, then just keep my name out of your mouth, bro. They're afraid to debate us live, and yet we're the dumb ones. What a joke.
Well, I remember Wolfie in one of his videos, one of the few I watched. I remember him panning across his worktop, and it had, I think it was a UPS power supply on there, which said on the front of it, property of NASA. So I don't know if he was trolling then, but yeah, I think it's pretty clear where his paycheck comes from.
wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, I got a screen grab of it. I
From
haven't been able
the
to find it
American
since.
tax dollar. That's where his money comes from.
Yeah, no doubt. But anyway, all right. So let's see if we can kind of rewind here a little bit and get back to where I was. So anyway, I was listening to Brandon's stream, right? Which, like I said, Brandon now took over the Ranty channel, and they had this guy on there who's another well-known glober. His name is George Nutsack, and George Nutsack is, everybody knows him because this is the guy that basically called up the Professional Engineers Society and contacted Brian Mullen's, you know, employer, and tried to get him fired, you know, basically right after he had just gotten married and was just having a new family, right? So it's like, yeah, that's what he wanted to do, is, you know, starve a little brand new life coming into the world. And, you know, so that's how they roll, though, you know. So,
And he was at the conference, right? Trolling?
yeah, he showed up at the conference, and, you know, as soon as I saw him, I went over to Robbie and I said, this guy, you know, he's essentially done everything in the world to, you know, wreak havoc on flat Earth. He's personally threatened me, like I'm really scared of him, but, you know, because he's like this 5 foot nothing tall, you know, little old man and stuff. But I go, he's not going to be here. And so we ousted him from the conference. So basically he wound up staying there for 3 days because he had all the, you know, everything paid for, but he couldn't go into the conference and troll. So, yeah. So that way they kind of did my heart good to do that, because that was basically a big waste of time. But anyway, so this George Nutsack guy, he goes on there and he starts talking about how on my Dallas presentation, which is what's playing right now in the background, I did a presentation basically on angular size and the impossibility of what's going on with the planets and the stars. And, you know, I could give you a summarize, but if you just watch what's going on, or if you've seen it, you'll get a general idea. But what they really took exception with, was the inverse square of light argument, right? And so he gets on there and he starts telling everybody ridiculous stuff like, oh, well, Bob was being dishonest because he was figuring, he was having the distances until he got all the way to the center of the moon. And I'm like, how do you even do that? I mean, it's like I don't even know how you would possibly do that to go to the center of the moon. And if he's talking about that extra, 1,000 miles in or whatever, that wouldn't make a damn bit of difference when you're doing, reverse calculations on the inverse square law, right? But because I came up with a figure of something like 1.47 quadrillion something, we're going to actually do it again today, on this, right? I'll show you what I did. And then he started saying stuff like, oh, well, I was just having the distance and I did it all wrong. And all the time, everybody's saying, well, George, why don't you just do the calculation right now? Why don't you just show us how you're supposed to do the calculation? And it really is a very simple calculation. In fact, let's see if I pop this up right here. So this inverse square law calculator, which is really cool, I found this at a little place called Massachusetts Institute of Technology. They were actually using this. So, I figured it was probably good enough. It was good enough for MIT. It was probably good enough for me. Now, it was put out by a company called International Light Technologies, who is also in Massachusetts, but, whatever. That doesn't seem to surprise me.
So they use it for studying light, or?
Yeah, to actually calculate the inverse square law, right? And
oh my goodness.
The formula is very, very simple, right? And George is supposed to be this PhD in mathematics, doctor, electrical engineer. He's got his PhD in idiocy, honestly. But so this right here is the formula, right? The E2, this E2 value, which is what we're going to actually calculate, is distance 1 divided by distance 2 squared times the E1, right? So very simple formula. It's super, super simple, and we'll show you all of those variables. Of course, they all have to be broken down to their constituent parts, and everything is done in meters. So I had to break kilometers down to meters and do all that stuff. And I actually, when I did this, I actually did the calculations by hand. But and then I got this calculator, and of course, we're going to find out today if the calculator agrees with what I did, when I worked it out by hand. So here I am doing the presentation and yada, yada, yada. But he was just making up all kinds of stories about how I had gotten it so wrong. But he would not do the calculation live on the air. And it's like, well, that's pretty crazy. Because the last time he did something like this, he was trying to debunk, I was showing, using online calculators, I was showing the impossibility of sending a signal that, using the transmitters, receivers, and the power that they had, 240,000 miles, whatever it is. Yeah, all full screen. I just saw that in the chat. 240 some odd thousand miles to the moon, right? And I calculated in all the gain figures and all that stuff. And so he just wouldn't have anything to do with that, because obviously one of the things that we claim is that you cannot broadcast a signal, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 billion miles, with a minimal power of like 25 watts, even if you had a super high gain antenna. It just doesn't work that way. So I did all the math. I did that math using online calculators, right? Well, so the first thing he does is he claims that I did all of it wrong, right? It's like, how can you get it wrong, but you're just putting the freaking figures in, right? It asks you put it in, you said, okay, and it does everything for you, right? And I actually did this show doing this. But so he then comes on and he goes, oh, well, no, here's where he's wrong. And he goes through this, 2-page calculation. And finally, when he's all done, with this gobbledygook that nobody understands, he's like, yep, see, you can easily do it. No problem at all. So basically, he was just saying that Pasternak, which was the online calculator I was using, was wrong, and I didn't know how to use it and all that stuff. And it's just like the desperation of this guy is over the top. I can't even believe him. But, this is one of the Ball Earth heroes, and he really, he's definitely got a chip on his shoulder towards me. But, I just find him laughable. He's so pathetic. So,
why is he known by ballers? He's kind of a baller guy. Yeah.
He's definitely known. Yeah, and because he has these credentials, they think he's just the greatest thing since sliced bread, right?
Uh-huh.
Even though nobody really watches his channel, but because it's boring, it's dry, it's horrible. So so anyway, he, really tries to latch on, and he attacks me at every single, opportunity. And it's like, whatever, George. But anyway, so when he was doing this, and making up all these stories and saying that I was having distances and calculating to the center of the moon, which I don't even know how you would do that or anything like that. I mean, everything he said was either a blatant lie or just dead wrong. Now, some of the things that he described did sound similar to how Jeran did some of his inverse square calculations. And one of the things that, the first time I had ever really thought about this was like over 3 years, because Jeran was the first one to actually come up with this, right? When he was talking about the inverse square of light, right? And so he did, basically this breakdown in just a very simple, easy way to do it, having the distance. And then he was looking at the light luminosity, right? And you could see right away that there was no way that, the moon would have to be on the order of like a trillion times, more than a trillion times brighter than what the sun is, right? And I also hit Dr. Danny Faulkner with this too. And Danny Faulkner came up, you should see his response to it. It's comical as hell. But I mean, these guys, so they go out and they're trying to completely rewrite these mathematical formulas that are incredibly simple, just to try and prove this wrong. Well, the reason that they're so desperate to do it is because this one simple calculation, that I show here, if anybody actually looks at it, they will see that it completely annihilates the idea of two things. One, that the moon is at the distance that it is. Two, that the moon is reflecting sunlight. Can't happen. And three, it kind of would say that it would have to be close and emanating his own light, right?
Isn't it some sort of simple exponential progression?
It's incredibly simple. The concept is, and I'm going to go through it here in a bit. But
it's exponential, right?
So it is.
So you should expect some crazy number with the numbers they give.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
am I also right in thinking that his main gripe was that you didn't do it to the surface of the moon, but you did it to the center of the moon? Is that right?
Exactly, to the center of the moon. Like that makes
well, doesn't the distance change?
Well,
that's exactly. Changes like what, 10,000 miles or something like that.
Well, I mean, even according to their figures, it says it goes from 221,500 at pedigree to 252,700 at apogee. So, I mean, there's 20,000 odd miles difference between the two. So what the hell would it make any difference going to the center?
You're right. Well, that's one thing, but that actually wasn't they were talking about. When I said center, they're talking about going to the center of the moon. Now, the moon's diameter is only 2,160 miles, right? So
we're talking about like the distance fluctuates so much more significantly than the 2,100 miles according to their own model that's just a moot point,
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's patently obscene. So anyway, so right away, Danny Faulkner jumped on, trying to debunk Jeran and I both when we brought this up at, I think it was the 2018 or 2017. I'm not sure which FEIC it was. Then he wrote his ridiculous article, and gosh, I should have brought it up because it really is that funny to read it. But and the other thing he did also in that same article was I was talking about the distance to Polaris, right? And at one point, the distance to Polaris was 450 million light years, right? And then they changed it back to like 230 million light years, like basically a full third. And, and so Danny Faulkner had done these calculations, based on my incorrect 450 million that I got from Wikipedia light year figure. And he said, yep, see, it all comes out perfectly. And then, of course, when I saw him at the next conference, I'm like, Danny, so if you were right, and now we know that it's a full third difference, there's only like 140 million light year difference, then how are you going to claim that your figures are right? And you know what he said to me? He goes, oh, it doesn't make any difference. It's close. It's close enough. I'm like, 130 million light years. Wow. I mean, incredible, So It's really, really, really pathetic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play, let's see, where is it? Taboo Conspiracy. Yeah, that's not it. This one's it. Okay, so I'm going to play a part of Ben's presentation. And let me actually stop my screen share and reshare it because I remember I have to do this right this time. So hang on just a second. Share screen, Chrome tab, share audio. Okay. So Ben, of course, then decided to do a piece on the inverse square of light that he did at, I think it was one of the Flat Earth and he was out of the country somewhere. I can't remember exactly where it was, but he was out of the country. And so he did the presentation there.
Romania.
And yeah, it was Romania. That's right. Yep. I can hear Ben screaming, Romania, Romania. And so I'm basically, because he explains it so well, I'm just going to let him, kind of talk about it. And then I will show you what I said about it. And we will go on from there so that you understand exactly what we're talking about when we talk about the inverse square of light. So without further ado, here's Ben.
I think it was maybe Jeranism or Globebusters or both who first mentioned this, but this is a terrific proof of the fake moon landings, and it deals with how much illumination there would have been on the lunar surface according to the heliocentric model. The inverse square law describes the intensity of light at different distances from a light source. Every light source is different, but the intensity changes in the same way, meaning this is a law for all light sources. The intensity of light is inversely proportional to the square of the distance. This means that as the distance from a light source increases, the intensity of light is equal to a value multiplied by 1 divided by d squared. Here are the simple equations. As an example, if you place a 100 lumen bulb in a floodlight that shines on only 1 square meter of surface, that surface will be lit at 100 lux. However, if you back the floodlight away to shine on 4 square meters, the surface is now lit with 25 lux. The full moon, which is supposed to be reflecting sunlight, has an illuminance up to 1 lux on the Earth's surface. That's not substantial, but a full moon has enough illuminance to read from it here on Earth. It is allegedly 376,285 kilometers to the moon from Earth's surface to moon surface. Let's assume our Apollo astronaut is 0.01 kilometers or 1 meter above the surface of the moon. We now plug the numbers into our inverse square law equation to find the intensity of the moonlight at the surface, solving for intensity at distance 2. I have the numbers on the printout, but you can see for yourself the problem. Sunlight has an illuminance up to 128,000 lux on Earth. That's pretty bright. That's as bright as it gets. Assuming my math and figures are right, applying the inverse square law, the Apollo astronauts would have experienced 1,106,175,009,570 times more illuminance on the moon's surface than direct sunlight on Earth.
All right. You guys really need to take that in, all right? Because when I did it, I came up with a figure in the quadrillions of lumens. Now, what Ben is doing differently here is he's comparing it to direct sunlight on Earth. And it's over 1.1 trillion times brighter than direct sunlight here on Earth is what it would have to be, right? So again, what are some of the arguments they come up with? Well, the first thing they came up with, you guys, you're stupid because that only works for a point source light. It's like, oh, okay, great. So let's look that up. So I looked it up. And let's look at point source. And there's some interesting things about point source light. So it says right here, a point source is a single identifiable localized source of something. A point source has a negligible extent distinguishing it from other source geometries. Sources are called point sources because in mathematical modeling, these sources can usually be approximated as a mathematical point to simplify analysis. The actual source need not be physically small if its size is negligible relative to the other length scales in the problem. For example, in astronomy, stars are routinely treated as point sources, right? Even though they are actually, in actuality, much larger than Earth. So essentially what they're telling you then is that, yeah, there's a difference, but not really. Okay, well, let's get another opinion on that. Okay, so then I went to this, and this is a photography, right?
Are you meant to be sharing, Bob?
Oh, crud. Yes. Oh, hell, you're right. Thank you for doing that. Let's undo the share. Hang on a second. Oh, I really hate this. I'm going to be so glad when I get off of this StreamYard. I mean, I like it, but I hate it at the same time.
Seems quite clunky, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's really hard to, navigate when you're trying to switch screens. And before I was using OBS, and it's much easier to just be able to flip around. So, all right, so let's go back to here and share it. All right, so there it is. Okay, and let's look back at the point source. So here's what I was reading right here. Point source is this, just so you guys weren't thinking I was kidding about it. And then I went and I looked up under photography site, and they were asking about inverse square law and reflected light. In other words, they're basically talking about, well, if it's reflected. Now, remember, they tell us that the moon is supposedly reflecting the sun's light. Now, in the flat Earth model, that's not true. In the flat Earth model, it is an absolute source light. But in their model, and we're going to go ahead and go with their model, it's a reflected light. But the thing is because the moon ultimately is so much smaller than the Earth, and especially when it only has a 0.52 degree angular size in our sky, that means that we can treat it as a point source light. And this whole thing, I won't go through all of this, but I will put these in the show notes to basically, you can follow the discussion, but what they come to the conclusion as is exactly what I just said. Okay. Then I went to Stack Exchange, right? Physics.stack exchange. This is another major site. So I'll just tell it accept all cookies. And they are talking about, again, it's right here. It says the inverse square law applies to point sources. For extended sources, that becomes accurate at distances that are large compared to the size of the source. At large distances, the source looks like a point. What large means depend on the application. In case of the light fixtures, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, again, but what it ultimately concludes then is that when you are treating the moon, because it's all up there all on its own, and it is essentially a point source light. Now, in the flat Earth model, it absolutely is, because we claim it is its own source. So, and again, it's all in here, and these guys are talking about it. I'm sure they know a lot more than I do about it, but I was simply looking to find out, what exactly the difference was. Well, and think about this, guys, for a minute. So what is the difference, really? If you have a point source light, so if you have, like, say, a floodlight, right? And it's not an omnidirectional source. It's not like a light bulb, but you have a floodlight, let's just say pointing one direction, and you point a light meter at it and you can get a light source on it. But say I pointed that floodlight at a mirror and then I pointed my light meter essentially at that reflection. Well, it's going to be essentially the same luminosity, right? I mean, depending on how well polished the mirrors are and all that stuff. But it is essentially going to be the same difference as a point source light, right? Even though it's technically reflected. So, and again, because of the distances and the sizes involved, and the fact that it's only a half a degree in our sky, according to all these guys, these experts that are talking about it, they say, oh yeah, absolutely, we can treat it as we can treat things like the moon and stars as point source lights. They said it, I didn't. Okay, so we can do that then. That's really cool. So now, let me go over to let me bring up something else here. Feel free to talk amongst yourselves, guys. Let's see.
Well, yeah, the whole, I mean, you can tell it's not just being illuminated from something hitting it. It's equally illuminated across the whole face of it.
Yeah,
That
and it
doesn't
has no
happen
hot
on a
spot.
sphere.
Exactly, it has no hot spot.
Yeah.
And what's so crazy? My homie said this is so simple, but it's pretty funny. So if like the sun is reflecting light off of the moon, and that's what's causing it to be illuminated, and then the angle of the light's what causes the moon phases. How come when we have the sun and the moon in the sky at the same time, the sun isn't fully illuminating the moon? I mean, you can say it's because of the angle, but it's just right in front of you. Sun in the sky, moon in the sky, but the moon is still not fully lit. So it's pretty obvious that it's just a self-illuminated light. I mean, it's right in front of you.
Yep.
Well, yeah. Otherwise, you wouldn't. They try and tell you that you only get a full moon at night time and a crescent moon during the day. And I think we've all seen the opposite of that. You can get almost a full moon in daytime and crescent moons are all the way through midnight, and none of it makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
In their model.
In their model, you're right. And that's why they have to constantly twist everything and make up stuff like, oh, you're measuring to the center of the moon. It's like, what damn difference does that make? You know, it's like we're talking about less than 1,000 miles out of a 250,000. You know, it's like absolutely preposterously absurd that they even bring these things up, right? So, all right, so this is one of the slides that I was using in my presentation, and this is essentially the breakdown of what we had there. Now, what the heck did I do with my little calculator? Hang on a second, let me bring it up.
I was going to say that Wolfie, I remember one of his tricks to claim that the horizon was dropping in an airplane was by using the lift of the wings, the fact that the wings move, to pretend that the horizon is dropping.
Yeah.
Good one.
Exactly. So, all right. So, like I said, I showed you this little calculator before, and I had done these calculations manually. But now we have this little MIT calculator that they use, and it is for inverse square of light. You know, like I said, it's from International Light Technologies. It's exactly what this is for. There's the formula. They're simple. All right. How do we do it? Let's put it in the calculator. So enter the original measurement distance, okay? So again, we have to break down the 234,000 miles to meters, which in kilometers, of course, is 384,000 kilometers. So let's put in the distance in meters. So that D1 is 402,000. All right, 384,402,000 meters. Okay, so the original measurement is E1 is 0.1 lux. Now it can actually go, you know, even a little bit lower than that or a little bit more. It doesn't matter. I cut it way down to 0.1 to give them the biggest advantage, right? So if we go 0.1 lux, all right, then we have the new measurement distance. Of course, we're just standing here on Earth, right? We're not doing anything. We're here on Earth, and we're using a light meter. And basically, at 1 meter, we have got the distance of 1 meter. We have 0.1 lux. All right, pretty damn simple, right? Now, if we calculate it, wow, look what it comes up with. 1.47 E16, so 1.47 to the 16th power, all right, which is what? All right, if we transmit that into this,
that's a lot of zeros.
It's 14 quadrillion, 700 trillion lumens, all right? So we're not even... Guys, you just saw this done with a calculator at MIT. There it is. There's the answer. No human error involved, even though I did it myself, right? So this is why they're going completely bonkers over this, because this absolutely destroys it. I mean, that much light, you know, we would probably be vaporized even here on Earth, right? From a light source that strong. It's utterly preposterous.
They had gold-lined fish bowls over their heads, though, didn't they? So they'll be all right.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's just utterly nuts. And so then also we have, there's another guy and another guy that had done this, and he put together a little luminosity of the moon presentation, which is kind of cool. So this is his presentation. And He just sent this to me just for fun. So we'll just go through. So according to mainstream science, the moon is reflecting sunlight. A reflector surface like a mirror looks to the observer like is emitting a light. Someone looking into the mirror would see this light coming from a mirror, right? Okay. So then basically he shows his math, right? Goes through it and all this. You guys can stop and freeze frame this at any point. And then he comes up, according to mainstream science, the moon is reflecting sunlight. So the astronauts were exposed to that brightness on their supposed moonwalk. Let's calculate what Buzz Aldrin would have to have seen at the surface of the moon. All right. So again, he comes up with it. Whoopsie. Let me back it up. I hate it when I do that.
It would be a white so bright that you'd be, I mean, I guess you'd be entering heaven or something.
Yeah. All right. And click forward. Okay. Click. All right. We see the moon on a very clear light at 1 lux. So he gave him 1 lux, right? And that's pretty bright moonlight. And I went for 1/10 of a lux because I gave him, all the advantage. So the flux density would be 141,590 401,225,000,000 lux, 441.6 quadrillion lux. Now, this is using slightly different figures, but this is somebody else completely doing this, separate from me, separate from Jeran, separate from Taboo Conspiracy. And isn't it funny how we're all getting these numbers that are utterly impossible, that nothing could ever be that bright, and never in a million years.
And this is all using their numbers.
Yes.
I mean, we're not making it up.
No, we're not making it up.
They really made a blunder on this one, didn't they?
Yeah. The fact that George is going after this so strong, all he doing, and this, of course, like I said, he absolutely refuses to do this math, in front of everybody, because somebody's going to watch him and go, wait a minute, George, this is absolutely wrong. And then because then he has to reveal his little magic tricks that he does, and like I said, the formula itself is so unbelievably simple that it's pretty hard to screw up. Yeah,
and where would that fly anywhere else? And when you're, oh no, I'm not going to show you how I did it. I just came up with this number. You just have to believe me. That's just insanity. Who would,
They would never let us fly with that ever,
no.
And that's why he's sitting there straw manning, saying that I'm saying stuff like, well, I'm cutting it in half and cutting it in half and It's like, no, I don't. You can watch the whole presentation. I never say a word about that.
Well, astrophysics gets away with this nonsense every day of the week, don't they? I mean, what was it, Michio Kaku saying they're wrong by, what was it, 170?
10 to the 120th.
Yeah. That's fine. Not a problem.
Even bigger number.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. So there it is, 14 quadrillion, 700 trillion lumens. Okay.
Well, I was going to ask you do you think that this calculation applies to the moon at all? And wouldn't the atmosphere itself acting like a lens, as we know, make a big difference or change the impression of this kind of calculation? I mean, if we were to know the actual distance to it.
Well, that there's always, obviously, yes, the atmosphere can change certain variables, but not this much. I mean, obviously, if light will propagate better, there'll be less loss as it goes through the vacuum of space, technically, right? Because there's nothing to block it. Whereas here on Earth, the light is physically limited by the air itself, all the particulates in the air, the humidity, all that stuff. So obviously that's going to play, some role in it. But honestly, it only works to their advantage, because really what it's doing is it's causing that moonlight to dim down when it gets here. It's not actually focusing it and making it any brighter.
Mm-hmm. But considering that the moon may not be in a vacuum of space at all, right? That's what I'm saying. You still think this calculation be valid,
applicable?
applicable to that kind of situation.
Well, in the flat Earth model, no.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's
That
what
is
that's
not-
what I thought the answer should
No.
be, right? Maybe
And-
because
Right, and of course they've lied about what light actually is, right? Like when you go into like the presupposition of the characteristics of light traveling from point A to point B, and then you have the presupposition of the medium, and then the differential within the medium. They're just like set themselves up within a house of cards, and they're sitting in a corner. But you know, the truth is that there could be huge medium differentials, and then we would have to account for that and actually have to know that information to understand our perception of light.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned, remember, Bob, that from the sounding rockets, the moon just looks like it doesn't even have a light. It's really, really weird. It's like this gray dot.
Exactly. Well, and then you also have to, think of, you look at the moon, and it's really the moon is supposedly these gray, dark, soil that's there, right? And the moon has a specific albedo, which even with, if it had a high albedo, but it doesn't, because, the moon certainly could not have a higher albedo than the Earth, right? Because the Earth, you got oceans to reflect off of. So the Earth is going to have a much, much, much higher albedo than the moon would. And, the albedo, again, is the amount of light that reflects away from, planets or gas giant or whatever it is that it's shining on. It's the degree of reflectivity. So I mean, all these things. So if we actually did this for a flat Earth model, and maybe this is something, gosh, I probably should have done this anyway. It'd be fairly easy to do, but to basically, we'd have to make an assumption of, how high the moon is up. But even if we said, it was at 3,000 miles or 3415.9, as I've asserted many times, even if we did that, it still would have ultimately a very, very low luminosity, in contrast to this or the sun, obviously, because we know is, it's not. Oh my, look at that! Flat Earth is straight stupid. Oh, we got a troll.
But wait, you know how whenever they shoot the laser through a vacuum, it's actually like much more efficient. It's less impeded, right? So if you get up there and you have like less of an impedance of the atmosphere, the air, the physical realm that we have, and like a differential in the medium with like the ether, right? Like so that would change everything. You could have like a way brighter output, quote unquote, because you don't have that like physical impedance. Because we can actually show that, but like when you shoot the laser through the vacuum, it's actually more efficient. It quote unquote propagates more efficiently. So like the medium is like this huge question mark that like really kind of ties our hands, I feel like.
Yeah, and it doesn't diffuse as badly either. It wouldn't diffuse as badly either in a vacuum or an area, because you just have less stuff for it to diffuse off of. So, I mean, you think about it, guys, and the ballers have everything about light wrong. Everything. I mean, from the point where they argue, all the way back to Aristophanes or even Al-Biruni, right? They're supposedly looking at these equations that they've created and making assumptions that these light rays are coming in parallel, and they're clearly not. They are splayed. They have they're just not straight at all, not by any stretch of the imagination. The other thing that, I've said many, many times is if you think about like how refraction works. Let me actually bring this up just so I can get a little.
Yeah, just to clarify, someone's saying what vacuum? You have to just understand what I'm saying. Like in a quote unquote vacuum, a theoretical privation, right? That doesn't actually exist, but you're getting more of the obstruction of air out of the way. If when you increase altitude, you have less obstruction of air, then you would actually have like a more efficient quote unquote output of light because of the excitation of the medium not impeded. So like we would need to know, but it does seem hyperlogical that that's the case.
And the general point that light is affected by whatever medium is at, is pretty important, no matter what happens there, I think. But we know that there's superfluids, at least what looks like that, and I have no idea how light behaves in superfluids.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And so anyway, they totally get this wrong. And by the way, as far as vacuums, you have a vacuum condition anytime you have one pressure system next to another pressure system, and they have a differential, whatever it is, right? If one is like 2 pounds, 2 psi less than, you know, what it would be at sea level, well, that is technically considered a vacuum condition, right? So
well, just your lungs are causing a vacuum by breathing.
Exactly. You're causing a pressure differential. So that's sort of vacuum. There is no such thing as an actual negative pressure, meaning that, you know, a perfect vacuum would be an area of space with absolutely no molecular matter in it at all. Nothing, zero, zip, nada. There can't be less than zero in there. So a perfect vacuum would be, you know, absolutely no matter in it whatsoever.
And that's never been observed and never been recreated. So
no, the energy is too. I mean, my God, just to even get it to, you know, 10 to the negative. Well, the best vacuum we can do at the Sandusky's is something like 10 to the negative 7th. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong, but it's nowhere near the vacuum that supposedly, you know, is on the moon, 10 to the negative 17 torr. Right? Nowhere near that.
And the walls of that place are like 8 foot thick, aren't they? And they're still sucking air through them.
Yeah, exactly. Of concrete and steel. And they still, and they tell you straight up that if they didn't have 8 foot thick walls of steel and concrete, that guess what? They would suck air through. It's like, wow, that's a lot of energy when you think about that. So another thing that the ballers have wrong, and I've mentioned this many, many, many times, is, you know, they talk about refraction and they want us to believe, first of all, in fact, they've even come up with the 7.6R, right? Which is complete horse hockey, right? 7.6R is a complete fabrication because, first of all, in order to have a refractive condition, in order to bend light down, you have to put it through a denser medium, right? So, like I said, if you take a laser, you shine it through a fish tank, well, you're going through a denser medium and it will draw that beam and it'll pull it down, right? I have never, in all the experiments that have been done, either FE Cores or Dr. John Dee's or anybody's like that, I have yet to see one single time where the laser went down, actually refracted down, or any light source actually refracted down. Now the ballers tell us that is how it always is. Every single time we see further than we should, they're telling us that the reason for that is because light is being drawn down. Well, the very nature of the ball Earth, the heliocentric model, the spherical Earth prohibits that. Now I'm not saying it's impossible, but it makes it incredibly unlikely. Why is that? Because if you take anywhere on this ball, right, and you point it in any direction, let's just say we're right up here at the top, right, and we point it this way, right, so the first thing we see is that the Earth is curving away from it, and if we're shooting out a laser right out this way, then what we're doing is we're going higher and higher and higher and higher above the Earth. So what happens when you go higher and higher and higher? Air pressure becomes less and less and less. That is not conducive to grabbing a hold of a light beam and bending it towards anything. In fact, it's quite the opposite, right? And this is why I have never seen a laser, you know, bend downwards. I have seen it bend up several times. John D happened with FE Core in Hungary. We have all this stuff on film, right? But you know, the ballers will tell us every single time that, oh no, anytime you see too far, it's absolutely because it's drawing that light down. So yeah, it's just crazy.
Yeah, it invariably goes up, doesn't it? John D did a brilliant video on that and actual proper observations as well. Yeah.
It does, and the only way that they can even get it to remotely go down is they'll take something like butane, which is super heavy, right?
That's right.
And it's like, yeah, well, sorry, we're not breathing butane, you know, and nor is there is no light condition, there is no atmospheric condition that's ever going to supercharge the atmospheric density like that. I don't care.
If it happens, it's very slight, and it's at certain times of the day, and it's not even, it's rare.
It's the
And
exception
it's a little bit.
to the rule.
It's not a lot, and it doesn't make things unbend or anything like that because it's flat. So it just makes an effect there.
Maybe they are breathing butane. Maybe that's their problem.
Yeah, I was just looking at the I haven't looked at it for years, but the U.S. Naval Observatory, they had the time and azimuth altitude of where the sun and moon were at any given time from any given location on Earth. And so I was checking this data and, doing my own measurements and verifying if what they were telling me was accurate. And one thing they would tell you when you went down to the bottom, because on every day they'd had negative numbers right before the sunrise. And when you go down to the bottom and read all the stuff about those negative numbers, it tells you that that's not the actual sun. The sun is still behind the curve of the Earth. You're seeing it being refracted up over the curve.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like up to 2 degrees, which is 4 sun widths. That's a big jump in the sky. And they're saying it's still 2 degrees below the horizon, but yet you can see it with your naked eye coming up right now.
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. Oh, there's my StreamYard. Thought I lost it there for a minute. All right, so let me reshare my video. Okay, so anyway, and like I said, every single time, on every occasion, they've always got the atmosphere wrong. They don't understand light. They don't understand perspective. As far as them, there is no such thing as angular size reduction, right? They completely ignore that. And that is probably the most paramount thing to our vision, right? When things get further away, they get smaller. So it's just,
they've even made comedies about that. I mean, come on, people. It's not hard to understand. Yeah. The cow here in my hand is small. The cow out in the field that looks the same size is much bigger because it's further away.
Didn't they? Didn't someone do an experiment? Excuse me. Do the calculations on the size of the ISS and how far it was away, and that it would be too small to resolve. Yeah,
that was me. In fact, that was this very lecture right here.
So you should never actually be able to see the ISS if it is the size it is and the distance it is away. Then your eyes wouldn't be able to resolve it anyway.
Yeah, it's something like 50 arc seconds, which is just under our visual resolution. And of course, that's another thing, that I pointed out in this video, is that we look at some of the facts about the ISS, right? Supposedly, and the thing that most people really need to think about, right, is, you know what? I'm going to actually play a little bit of this. Hang on just a second, because this is really a good point. I'm glad you brought this up. So hang on a second.
Just look at that thing. I mean, it's
I know.
It's utterly ridiculous. 17,500 miles an hour. Uh-huh.
I know.
Yeah, then they get out with a little flop. Or just
go fix the RJ45 cables outside and those
crossing tables,
bendy solar panels.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so basically what I was pointing out, let me make sure this is the right spot. Why are we not fleeing here? Yep. All right, we'll just do it from here. Okay, let's try this. So basically what I was showing on this is I was saying, all right, everybody, let's look at an amateur footage of the ISS, right? And I had already gone through the specifics about it. And, if you haven't seen it, this is actually pretty close. Sorry, I'm not a pro on PowerPoint. So let's do it. So we'll just go ahead and mute that. So basically this little tiny dot in the sky is our ISS, right? And it's just kind of cruising along there at supposedly 5 miles per second, 17,500 miles per hour. Now, the point I was making is that if you go to spotthestation.nasa.gov, right, you can find out when the ISS will appear and will rise from what direction and for how long you're able to see it, right?
It's barely moving, man.
It's barely moving at all. That's supposedly doing 5 miles a second. And they're of course, the ballers are out there saying, well, yeah, you dummy, because it's 250 miles up. That's like, no, it's not and you would still never be able to. I mean, it's unbelievable crap they try and have you believe.
But they
All
say
right.
it goes around the Earth in 90 minutes, don't they?
Exactly.
That thing would just be gone.
So look at that thing. It's just lumbering along. It's barely even going. And the reason is because this is, I believe that this is a specially outfitted something like a U2 with a bunch of LEDs on the bottom of it, because it's really not going any faster than 500 miles an hour, and it's probably up around 60 to 70,000 feet. And of course, when you have the lights laid out on the tail and the wings, it could actually look a little bit like the ISS from the bottom, or it could. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and you guys have been saying this for forever as well. This isn't leaked knowledge from a supposed NASA whistleblower or anything. This is, you've been saying this is a plane with LEDs on it or some sort of trickery going on for ages.
Exactly. But ironically, our whistleblower, our alleged whistleblower, in which, I don't know if he's for real or not, but he's basically saying that it was some modified bomber, right? But, I said it was a U-2, he says a bomber, whatever, but he did say that there were ultra bright LEDs all across the bottom of the wings, right? Okay, and that makes perfect sense to me. But the thing that doesn't make any sense, so when you look at that, and when you go to spotthestation.iss.gov, right, you are able to see that space station anywhere from 2 to 8 minutes in duration. Now, when you take into consideration 8 minutes at 5 miles per second, we're talking about 2,600 miles. Now, who here believes for 1 second that you literally can see the ISS go from one end of the United States all the way to the other with your naked eye? And beyond that, guys, because it's too small to see, because of the angular resolution of the eye, they are 100% counting on that you are being able to see the reflected light coming from it, right? Now, if you've ever played with with a mirror, right, and you try and reflect it onto something, it's really super hard to pinpoint something. And yet for 8 minutes across a distance of 2,600 miles supposedly, right, that ISS is reflecting light right into my eye. It never changes resolution, it never changes brightness. But what's interesting about it is that if somebody is across the city or across the state from me, they also can see that, right? So somehow it's also reflecting the light into their eyes. But you would think that if a person, if I could see it for 2,600 miles, right, then you would think that you wouldn't need to have specific time frames for it to show up over your city. You should be able to see it anywhere in the United States, but you can't. Well, why can't you? Well, that's just another clue that it is local. It's up about 60, 70,000 feet, and it's traveling about 500 miles an hour. I mean, it's a dead giveaway.
And there's several of them.
And some of these things they're saying that the light is reflecting off of are solar panels.
That's exactly.
They're made to, they don't reflect the light. They absorb it. Yeah, that's, oh my goodness.
That's exactly. So look at this on the screen here, guys. So here we have a lineup of people that are well over beyond the length of a 747, right? 300 meters easily. It's longer than that. And look at them. All of them have mirrors, and each and every one of them is trying to hit the plane, the helicopter out here. And it's very hard to do, right? So you barely catch these little flashes here and there, a little flash there. And not only that, the ISS is only 250 miles supposedly above the surface, right? How is it that the sun is able to get around the Earth, hit the ISS at the perfect angle, and reflect it down to your eye and keep it there for 8 minutes as it travels all the way across the country? I mean, you have got to be brain dead if you believe that. Seriously.
And remember in that footage from the sprites, right? The sprites were 480 kilometers away, and they were very close to the horizon, and they were 100 kilometers high. So, I mean, you cannot really see more than 500 kilometers if you look at the horizon. and if you know what I mean, at around 100 kilometers. So it would be impossible to see it, even if it were crossing that amount of space. That's just to add to the point.
Exactly. I mean, everything about this, when you really think it through just a little bit, and and then they'll say, of course, some of the comments that I've gotten, well, what is it that we are seeing? Of course, that's something I did not address, as what we are seeing. I didn't mention at the time that I thought it was a U2, but like I said, our holographic technology is quite good these days, and I think it could easily be something created holographically. Why do I say that? Well, because think about these artificial stars that they're making so that they can actually take the noise component out of these observatories, right? What they're doing is they're firing a 45-watt laser. They're hitting the alleged sodium layer, which just happens to be at 62 miles up, right where the firmament's supposed to be. And somehow it fluoresces and creates an artificial star that is bright enough for them to calibrate and create an artificial star, and then be able to take noise out of their optics, right? Well, if they can do that with a laser from the ground, then they certainly should be able to project anything on the firmament, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense.
So, I mean, it's just, like I said, it's just absolutely unbelievable that people are unable to get this, but and they call us.
But haven't we caught a lunar transit with balloons on the supposed us?
Somebody did. I don't know if that was real or not, but if it wasn't,
dude,
it looked good. Yeah.
It looks like something hanging off balloons going across it. It's Southern California. I think he caught it. Yeah, it appears on the level film.
Crow had caught in something. I don't think he was claiming it was the ISS, but I think it was 3 balloons. And it looked like they were like rotating almost as they were going across the moon. It was a weird one. Yeah.
and then the Simpsons, of course, did their cartoon where they said, all I see is the Fox satellite, and it was on like 3 balloons going across the moon.
Right.
I mean, they've literally fallen out of the sky. Like what a clown world.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. All right, so let's see. So that's the tab. I want to show you another nifty little thing from Taboo Conspiracy. And this is just a little 1 and 25-second video. So hang on, let me get to this. And this is really cool because this just came out. But this shows video footage from Apollo 12. And allegedly, right? And this is just, God, this is so bad. Well, I'm just going to play it for you, and you watch this. You're going to love this. Here we go.
Hello, everyone. I have a couple other videos I'm working on, and so this will be a quick debunking of the Apollo missions. Before watching, please remember, if NASA faked any of it, we can rightfully assume NASA fakes all of it. That's how a court would treat obvious liars, and so should we. This clip you're going to watch is from Apollo 12, which I grabbed from this video. I also found the same clip on Getty Images, which I'll show next, but I cannot find the original clip anywhere on NASA's website. After you watch it, I think you'll understand why NASA doesn't showcase this footage. If you do find the original, please send me the link. Now watch carefully. I have not edited this video.
This is great.
So you can see it. Here it is cropped.
Boing, oing, 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 oing.
Here it is at half speed.
Boing, oing, oing, oing.
Here's the same clip from Getty Images.
Oh, that's a great catch.
Oh, that is awesome. Oh, Austin lost service. Oh, bummer.
Without question, this is a model that broke.
So bad.
NASA is a criminal organization that has not only stolen hundreds of billions of dollars, but also the hearts and minds of billions of people.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it looked like it was caught on the wire or something, and then it like got past it and gave way, and then just started flopping back and forth.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's those solar breezes.
And remember, the Apollo 12 is the one that they had the playmates on the cuffs. You know that I think you saw it. Remember, Bob, that they have like naked women when they're like walking around the moon. You know, the cuff thing that they have on their arm.
Right.
That they look into. They had pictures of women like naked with their ass and their tits out, and saying, inspector crevices or la la la, all sorts of stuff like that. And they show it in the history of NASA. It's in their website.
Wow.
There's like 3 or 4 of these naked girls that they had.
Oh, that's right.
Flight.
Yeah, that's right. Didn't you cover that the other night on your show?
Yeah, I covered that.
Yep.
Yeah, a while back. Yeah.
God, that is just crazy. So yeah, I mean, just it's so much fun, and I love, Ben finds these things somehow. I don't know how he comes up with them all the time, but some people send stuff to me, and they send it to Ben. In fact, the next thing I'm going to show you, I'm not sure if it came from somebody that was actually legit, or was just trying to say, oh, we gotcha on this. But so he writes me a letter. The guy that accompanied this video, he says, yeah, I'm almost 100% a flat earther. And usually when they say something like that, it strikes me as a little suspect right away. And then they'll say, except I was watching this and I'm just wondering how this could be possible, under certain things that you said. So basically he was watching a video, and it shows one of the rockets actually going up and breaking into supersonic speed, right? Well, we were talking about, some of the space shuttle launches, that the space shuttle was going up, and we were saying it was a balloon. Well, it's not likely, I don't think, that we could get the balloon up to supersonic speed, especially in the atmosphere where you could actually physically see when it breaks the supersonic barrier. You can see this kind of perturbation in the atmosphere around it.
Well, you're talking about 700 plus miles an hour, aren't you?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which of course really is supposed to be nothing. But so he's like saying, so what he does is he sends me this, and so let's go ahead and play this. And he wants to know how this is possible, if this is really a balloon. So we're going to answer that live. So here we go.
But on rare occasions, we do get a glimpse of something special. At Kennedy Space Center on February 11, 2010, an Atlas rocket launched into ideal conditions for showing off shockwave. And this is the result. We hope you've enjoyed this little tour of visual and auditory speed of sound phenomena. Visit abweb.com for a glimpse of something special.
Okay, so what's happening here, guys, first of all, is this is not a rocket with any payload on it. This is just a rocket, okay? Now I'm gonna slow this way down.
Yeah, that's nothing like a shuttle.
No, not at all. I mean, it's like nothing
It's
at
like
all.
a bottle
even
rocket.
close.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's much, much faster.
Isn't it also the problem that to go out in orbit, it needs to go 17,500? How many times the speed of sound is that? 17
It
times?
has to go Mach 33, which is 25,000 miles an hour.
Right. How many times the speed of sound that is? So how many of these things you should expect to see?
Oh, a lot. Yeah. But see, this is only breaking into Mach 1, right? And Mach 1 is like 700 and something miles per hour. And not only that, you can see that the cameraman, it is actually flying over the top of him, right? And it looks like it's already turning and leveling out. So, I wrote back to him and I said, look, it's obvious that, first of all, there's no payload on here with no balloon. This is a real rocket that, it really is going supersonic speed. And you can see that, by the air perturbations, which are going to show up right about any second now. And there they are right there. Okay. And so, yeah, it's really going 700 miles an hour. But even that's nothing. I mean, considering these things are supposed to get up to, Mach 25, which is the 17,500 miles per hour, and then Mach 33, which is escape velocity, which is 25,000 miles an hour. This is nowhere near that speed, not even close, even without a balloon payload on it. So there's a big difference.
It was weird. It's like it's almost hitting a cloud layer, and as soon as it started to do that, you could see the tip of it light up like it had gotten above the clouds. It's weird. The very tip of the rocket seems to light up right as the perturbation starts to happen. You can, I don't know.
It could be, and it could be something, you know, that we're seeing an optical effect that's caused by that perturbation of the air. But I mean, but beyond that, you can definitely see there's a huge disturbance.
You just wouldn't see something going at Mach 33 though, or even 25 or anything like that, because the size of the rocket moving at that speed would render it that you wouldn't be able to see it with your eyes for the angular resolution again.
Exactly. But you know, according to them, they seem to think that, you know, radio signals can travel forever, you can see forever, and there's no limit to anything. I mean, this is what they want you to believe. But then the real world tells us, you know, it's like I mentioned, you know, it's like we have to have 50,000 watt AM radio stations to be able to get sufficient coverage around 1 or 2 states, right? Clear channel, you know, and that's maybe 1,000 miles, best case scenario, for 50 kilowatts. And yet they tell us then that the Voyager which is transmitting at the same power as a refrigerator light bulb, which is like 25 watts, that it's coming in at 1/10 trillionth of a billionth of a watt.
Of a watt, yeah.
And I don't even know how to say what that is, right?
I don't understand how I don't understand how every ham radio licensee out there hasn't worked that one out.
They do. I think there's a lot of people, especially in those kinds of fields, that they realize this very quickly. It's the technical field where you find flat Earth also in the manuals. They have to have it. I found it in a bunch of radiometry papers and books. They have their flat Earth model to explain how radio propagates. There's no other way.
They sell it in the back of the Radio Society of Great Britain magazine. They've got like they've got a flat Earth map, but it's slightly off center, so it makes Antarctica an island, and it makes New Zealand about 15,000 miles long. It's just this tiny little string, and it's just like, all you got to do is just move it slightly down a bit, and Antarctica will go around the outside, and New Zealand will look like it's meant to look like. But it's hilarious.
Now, with all the different Antarctic bases around the edge, shouldn't you be able to tell, hey, I have to shoot it like 180 degrees in the opposite direction to hit this Antarctic base compared to the base I was talking to yesterday?
If you've got a directional antenna,
Yeah, exactly.
That's the problem.
And of
one
course,
thing I was gonna before we move on the wave that appeared on the rocket, I just wanted to make the point that it looks very flat. The wave itself, from the way it propagates, the sonic boom, whatever it is, the sonic wave, it looks very flat from the bottom. The wave,
it's like a ripple on a pond, isn't it?
Yeah, that was very interesting.
Yeah, so crazy. So I mean, so that's the whole point of this, you know, why I wanted to bring up light, and this is something that I think is really important, because there's so much to learn about light, and it's just like what you know, we've been working on with this second sun, or I prefer to call it source sun. I mean, this is something, and the reason I find this intriguing is because this goes into an area of understanding light that almost nobody really understands, and that's when you get into the area of polarity, right? And you know, I know that when I first saw Chris do that out on our front lawn, right, when he's looking up at the source sun, and we adjusted, all we did was twist a Polaroid filter on that source sun, and it literally phased it right out of existence. You know, that just makes you step back and go, whoa, wait a minute. You know, especially
and like an eclipse too. It didn't like an eclipse would do it from one side to the other with an arc in it. Yeah, that was insane.
Bob, you and Chris just didn't read the instructions, you know.
I know, and they are really pushing that. And like I said, we have been trolled so hard on that, and they're still coming back. Oh, you haven't adjusted the tilt knob or whatever what you call it knob is called. It's like, oh my god. But see what
you know
Wolfie,
what though?
What's that?
The trolls did not really attack the polarized light video I did right after that. 1 week later, showing the exact same thing that we saw in Chris's telescope. And Wolfie has not tried to recreate anything with a polarized lens.
And he won't.
Hint. No,
and
exactly.
He won't. Because if Wolfie did what we did, he would get exactly the same result, and then he'd be standing there going, uh-oh, now what do I say? You know, and obviously, you know, I have no idea, you know, who is coaching him or anything like this, but, you know, like I said, Wolfie kind of tells the story when he comes out from under his rock. You know, they have him in the game for a reason, and that's that they really want something to be covered up. And I brought that up, and you're right, Zach. They have not called Wolfie out to the rescue since then. And you know, I'd love to see him actually take this on. I mean, you know, come on, Wolfie. Again, reproduce what we have done and show us what we did wrong. Explain it to us. But you're not going to do it by straw manning us, because that's exactly all you have done is you have straw manned the argument from Jump Street. You are not addressing the polarity of light. They did have one other guy. I couldn't believe it. They had one other guy, and what he did is he took a pair of sunglasses, you know, at the end of his video, and he laid him down on the ground and kind of twisted it and basically, you know, made him black out because you were looking through the glasses at an angle where it simply made it look dark, right? And it's like, oh my God, what a pathetic trick.
Yeah, Cami explained that, isn't it Brewster's law? When you hit it at that 57-degree angle, yeah, it creates a polarity. Yeah.
Yes, so. That is Brewster's law.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. I forgot. Remember.
Oh, you'll remember. You'll remember. But yeah, so I mean, there's a lot, guys, that you know we need to learn about light, and we actually have some really good people in the community that are experts at light, and I think that you know light is a really super good area to do some shows on, and I am really looking for material and suggestions from the audience of things to do shows on that you guys want to see us do shows on, whether it be, you know, specific debunks of somebody or something like that, or shows on RF propagation or shows on light or anything like that. I will be more than happy to set those up and, you know, call in the appropriate guests and or experts to talk about it, because you know, I'm done trying to prove to the trolls that the Earth is flat. It's like, as far as we're concerned on this show, the Earth is flat. All right.
Yep.
Now we need to figure out how it works.
Okay, I got one question, one suggestion. I remember. The question is, when it comes to the source sun, are you able to compare what they call the reflection inside the telescope to the polarized second source? And that would be interesting to see the whole thing, like the sun itself, how it looks when you put the polarized filter, the source sun, and then what they call the reflection.
That's what I was thinking, Rodrigo. It was the whether it had sunspots on it, so then you could tell if the two were the same,
right?
Basically.
Well, and not only that, to put an all-out obstruction on it. Oh, there's Austin coming back. Let's see. There we go. You with us, Austin? Earth Austin, come in, Austin. Well, I know he's there. You're muted, Austin, on your mic. So I'll let him come in. I'll let him figure it out, but I have added him to the stream. But yeah, I mean, we definitely do want to see that. You know, if we can get an obstruction, something like that, and look at the difference in the two images, the source sun versus, because they are absolutely in two physically different positions. And their properties act physically different. You know, one is polarized, one is not. And, you know, like that's just crazy.
Can't get away from that one. That's why they won't touch it. That's why Wolfie won't get a Polaroid filter out.
No, I don't think he will. And, I would honestly welcome, I know Crow would too. And because Crow's, look, if this is some sort of weird, bizarre aberration, then great, it is. But somebody's going to have to prove that to us, because so far we haven't been able to prove it to ourselves. We do have Chris Van Maitre, who is he's got basically Cami gave him some homework, right, on what to shoot, how to try and debunk it, and try all these different things. And so he's out there, trying to get that job done. And we're going to report accordingly. But I think that in this particular case, when you look back at some of the ancient cosmologies, especially the Vedic cosmologies, that specifically talk about these phenomenons, I mean specifically. So the ancients knew about the polarized sun. They knew about it, which blew my mind. Lucas actually found an article on that. L.C. King. I couldn't believe it.
He's been looking at that stuff. Yeah.
Well, there was that clip you played this morning, wasn't it, Zach, on the Ironworks, with the guy
yesterday.
Yeah, at the observatory saying, "Oh, look, there's the second sun," but we don't talk about that. NASA just lies about that. Anyway, where's our guest?
Anyway, yeah. It was like a little 10-second thing from the SLU Observatory in 2014, I think it was.
Yes.
Mercury transit.
It was just so blasé. It was just like, yeah, and there's the second sun. And we don't
Everybody knows about it, but whatever.
How funny is it? There's only one side really trying to find the truth here. Like that's why we're trying to debunk it or figure out if we can find some alternative explanation, while they just sit there and literally like hand wave dismiss it, but ignore the actual actual evidence. It's a joke.
Well, that's it. Even though we're seeing the source sun, and what we're saying is possibly a projection of it or whatever, we don't know what it is. We're not claiming to know what it is at the moment. We're in the exploratory phase of trying to work out what the hell it is, and they're just making up nonsense. Yeah,
telling us we don't know how to use the dials and buttons. And then when Chris made a joke about it, blatantly said, "Oh no, I just started turning dials. I had no idea." They literally said, "Oh, see, he even admits it." It's like, oh my god.
I mean, who spends? How much is that thing? Couple of grand?
At least.
Who spends?
I think it was like 2,500 altogether. That's
exactly. And you don't read the manual. You don't work it. You're just like, I just bought a lens, and we'll just twiddle some dials.
We'll just wing it. Yeah.
And Chris.
I mean, they went so far as to put 4-foot long cardboard circular tubes on the end of their telescope to make sure it wasn't a reflection, to block out any way there was extra light getting in there.
Both Chris
done that
and
years
Crow
ago. Yeah, they both did it years ago.
Do the same, Wolfie.
Yeah, well, the whole thing is Wolfie, when he does it, he gets both images right in the same. So, but when Chris did it, he dialed it out, and then he physically had to pan to the other image.
Yeah, well, the real question is, are they so sunken in cognitive dissonance that they actually refuse to do it properly? So it's either they lack the intellect and the comprehension skills to fully understand what we're saying and to do it properly. They're afraid to do it properly because of cognitus, or they're afraid that it might not be consistent with their predisposition. Or he's done it in private, found out that we're not just making it up, and then he's just going to ignore it and blatantly lie about it. None of those are looking too high, bro.
I think it's 3.
Wolfie's a flat earther, but he's paid to be a baller. Is my analysis on that one.
Yeah, I think his image, his reflection, also has a kind of the vignette on it, which is very different, at least from what I could just see on the screen. It looked different from the other one as well. From Chris's.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, guys. So that's it. I think that hopefully now that we have that, people can actually press Mr. Nutsack to do these calculations live on air. And if you go back, and I'll put my presentation in the show notes, and I would love to see where I was having the distance and all these things that they were saying I was doing, and that I was taking the measurement to the center of the moon, which it's like, I don't even know what the hell that means. But whatever, right? But I just thought I would, outline that for you guys to hear the kind of bullshit that I have to put up with these guys trying to rebut our arguments, and why, if it's so crazy to them, why do they care, So
They're obsessed with us, bro. That's the truth. Because every time I ever am surrounded by these people, they know every single thing I've said in like my last 5 live streams. They know everything we say on Globebusters. Like, the truth is that they're actually obsessed with the conversation just as much as it seems that we are. They just are, too weak to publicly acknowledge it, bro. So let the dead bury the dead. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I hear you.
I agree.
Everyone's a fake baller of all ballers. They're really a hard to flat earther. So Jeran got attacked for saying everyone's a flat earther at heart, which is true.
Yeah,
exactly.
well, everyone's a flat earther, period, because we're on a flat earth.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's all that their senses have ever told them that they're on.
It's the difference between those who realize they're flat earthers and those who don't.
Yes, that's true. But some of them know it and can't acknowledge it and won't acknowledge it, and others it's just it is cognitus. It is too. It messes with their reality too much. They simply can't handle it. And believe me, I get that, because when I came to the conclusion that a lot of these things that I had been figuring out about the world, how awful they were and how true they were, wow, it's tough to deal with. Really is.
I never got it, and until I saw it in other people, and then I realized that it was possible to basically lie to yourself, to ignore stuff that is pounding on your head, that is obvious. I never thought there were people like that until Flat Earth came around, and I actually came up against them every single day. It's crazy.
Yeah, Flat Earth will make you realize you can never underestimate the power of ego.
Yeah, and cognitus, it's just mental.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Okay, guys. So I guess we're going to call that a show then. And, we made it an hour and a half. Hey, that's all right. A little bit over an hour and a half is going to be. So
very good.
I'm glad that everybody was able to join us on a Wednesday night. And we are going to be doing these from now on, because like I said, the Rockfin Sunday show. And by the way, guys, for those that have joined us on the Rockfin platform, it has been a fantastic success. I never in my wildest dreams imagined that so many people would come over and subscribe, but wow. I mean, a lot of people, and I just couldn't be more thrilled. And it's great because now we can say whatever the hell we want to say, and it's just really nice to do that. So I appreciate everybody that was able to do that. And again, like I said, for those of you that aren't just in that position to be able to afford it, that's okay, because anything that's highlighted that is really going to matter and matters to the community, we will be covering on this as well. Plus, we will be releasing periodically some short clips and stuff like that. Zach was kind enough to make a segment on from last Sunday's show that was on Rockfin, that was talking about the desperation of these clowns, that they have to actually pretend to be somebody that they're not, and it's just unreal, really pathetic. So I will be posting that up on the Globebusters main channel, and you guys can enjoy that. And other than that, we're probably going to be seeing everybody on Sunday. So let's go around for one quick last thing for everybody. And let's see. I know Austin, you may be having some connection problems, so let's start with you in case you drop out.
All right, so we're headed to the Georgia Guidestones right now. We're about 15 minutes out. Hopefully it's a clear night. We're going to another time lapse of the star trails. We're actually going to try to isolate Polaris in the hole. Then we're going to stay till tomorrow, catch the sun in the slot at noon, and we'll see if it's been vandalized. Then we're going to head towards your way so we can kick it with the legends, Bob, Cami, Zach, Karen, Ted, etc. And so it should be cool. We're going to map it all out in the next few days where we go from there. And masqueradetour.com.
All right. Sounds good, Austin. Beautiful. All right. So, Zach, let's go over to you. What do you got coming up this week, sir?
I'll be digging in clay tomorrow. Trying to level that out a little bit. Yeah. I'm almost done. I got all the wood in for the last garden bed. It's I'm pleased with how much we have right now. And
You
it's
guys
enough
really,
space to grow some stuff.
yeah, you were going to have to take some video of it, guys. But I mean, you guys have got to see what Zach has done to our backyard. We have, what is there, 4 or 5 of them?
Four.
The beds, there's 4 of them. Okay, there's 4 huge garden beds back there that, he's been totally TLC. He built them, from the ground up, and they are going to actually be able to handle a large garden, a very large yield. And it's amazing. Zach has put in so much work in this. It's absolutely incredible. So we're going to have to highlight that for everybody.
Time to bring in the orgone for the seeds.
Indeed. I might have to hit up Chris Pontius for some orgone generators, and then see maybe if we can get a hold of another fiber optic gyro. We can play with it with the orgone generators. I think that'll be cool.
Nice, yeah.
Yep. So cool. All right. So Rodrigo, let's move over to you. What do you got coming up, sir? Excuse me.
Just a bunch of work, being kind of busy, and been doing the Latin course. That's interesting. The conversation tonight reminded me of a second line of Genesis, because vacuum appears there. Description of the earth as being empty and vakua, or empty and still, I guess, before the Spirit of God is taken over the waters and so on. So it's interesting that it's part of this kind of emptiness, is part of, or whatever that may be, it's part of creation as well, at least in this account.
Awesome.
But yeah, just doing. I don't even know. I'm literally, I try to make plans, and then I try to follow up on it. I've been taking a little bit of a break. My son turned 1, and we've been finally here in the Netherlands. Only today they opened restaurants again. So I managed to get out of the house to a place where the baby can play with other kids, and I can do a little bit of work, and so things coming a little bit back to normal, because it's been 7 months of lockdown here.
I know, it's crazy, and they're starting to do that here. I mean, the powers that be are really fighting back, but I mean, so many of the governors are at this point where they're just like, you know what, screw this. We are done with this. We're going to start opening things back up, and I think that everybody is starting to get to that mindset, and they're also really starting to doubt everything that's going on.
Here is definitely the case, because if you look, just look yesterday in Amsterdam and other places, it's totally packed with people, like millions of people just on the streets, nobody wearing masks, and people just hanging out. I mean, the Dutch are really, that's what they do in the summer. They go out and they hang out in the terrace. They have beer together, and it's like, it's their culture. Like, they're going nuts now, because it's a small country. People want to go out. They don't want to stay at home. So it's really the thing that cuts across this kind of lockdown idea. It goes really against many of these cultures here in Europe. There's really like the Spanish, the Italian, the French. They really out and eating out and going out, walking outside.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Oh, also, Commercial Sound and Video put a super chat in there, and I'm glad. Thank you, Cami, for pointing that out to me. That he says Flat Earth Yacht Club Ball, June 18th and 19th in Tybee, Georgia. Interesting. That's really cool. All right, so Flat Earth Yacht Club Ball, June 18th and 19th in Tybee, Georgia. That's interesting. We'll have to figure out what's going on with that, and maybe cover it a little bit more. But thanks for that information, Nathan, and the super chat. Thank you so much. Beautiful. All right, and I guess last but not least, John, you got anything that you're working on, or just kicking it?
I'm such a boring old fart, I tell you. Here I am stuck in Prison Island in the UK, but no, I've actually worked very hard to make sure that I have always got a clean schedule ahead of me, and I've got nothing planned. But yeah, no, I've been jumping in the deep end on crypto over the last couple of weeks or so. Big uphill learning curve that is. But yeah, so I'm going to be carrying on with that. I've got a consultation with Jeran coming up shortly, and yeah, I love the idea of audience suggesting subjects, anything they want covered. over the weeks and months, yeah, it'd be awesome.
Yep,
Something
I
to dig
think
our
so
teeth
too.
into. Yeah. So thanks for the invite, and yeah, hopefully I'll see you soon.
All right, excellent. All right. Well, everybody, again, thanks again for joining us, and we hope to see everybody this coming up Sunday on Rockfin for the normal Globebuster show at noon. And if not, then we'll see you back here in a week. And I will go ahead and get that highlight film that Zach made posted up for everybody, just so you can see how despicable our opponents are and how pathetic they are in the tactics that they have to use. I mean, they need to be exposed on this stuff, and we're a big channel, and we're just the people to do it. So, FTFF, right?
FTFF.
Right on.
That's right. All right, guys. So we'll see you then. Until then, be good to each other. Don't lie to each other. Open your mind, because there is truth inside. Peace out, everybody.
Peace.
Peace.
FT.